This is a video about the emotion of hurt. Now, hurt is not as straightforward to understand as, say, feeling happy, angry or sad, so I do need to explain what I mean by hurt. Hurt is the feeling we get when we think or feel that we've been treated unfairly by someone or a group of people, such that we end up upset and really quite bothered about what happened to trigger our hurt. Feeling hurt in the way that I mean it always involves the actions and words of another person, and quite often it's somebody that we care about. Feeling hurt is the word for emotional pain that's been triggered by the words and actions of another person. The kind of things that can make us feel hurt can include someone you care about criticising you and you don't think they're right to do so, someone insulting you, someone deliberately not including you, like not inviting you to their party, for example. Being bullied is hurtful. Someone letting you down, especially if they're letting you down for what you think is not a very good reason. When someone doesn't show any appreciation for something you've put a lot of effort into. A friend falling out with you, especially if you don't really understand the reason why. When someone you trust lies to you. If a close friend forgot your birthday or something else that was important to you. If you learned a friend was saying nasty things about you behind your back. Someone deciding that what you need is less important than what they need and you don't agree. And anything we think of as unfairly unkind that's done to us. So hurt is the feeling that we have when we've been emotionally wounded by someone because of something that they did or said. When we've been hurt, we quite often feel like our side of the story has not been heard, and we usually really wish that the person that hurt us understood how we felt and why we were feeling that way. Sometimes we get to tell our side of the story, and sometimes we don't. It can actually be harder to recover from hurt when we don't feel like our side of the story has been heard. Feeling hurt can feel like a mixture of emotions all put together. When we feel hurt, we can feel some or all of the following: feeling rejected, frustrated, feeling misunderstood, sadness, sometimes there's a bit of worry, feeling shame, feeling like you've not been heard, feeling undervalued, feeling wounded, feeling disrespected, distressed, and what hurts you usually really bothers you. These feelings can be quite strong and painful at first. When we feel hurt, we can also ruminate about whatever happened to trigger our hurt. Ruminating is when we think about what happened over and over again, and each time we do this, it triggers emotional pain or hurt again. This never helps the situation, so it's a good idea to tell your brain to stop ruminating when it does. Ruminating doesn't sort anything out, and it just makes us continue to feel unenjoyable emotions. So why does hurt happen? Well, hurt happens because we expect the world to be fair. This seems like a reasonable thing to expect. The world would be a wonderful place if everybody was treated kindly, fairly and with respect all of the time. However, the world is just not fair. People will always upset other people, sometimes deliberately, but mostly accidentally. Other people will upset you, and you are likely to upset other people. That's just how life goes. The world is messy and complicated, and in a way, when we learn to accept this, it helps us to be hurt less often because we will accept unfairness as part of life. Sometimes unfairness means we benefit because we got a better deal than someone else, and sometimes unfairness means we are worse off because we got a worse deal than someone else. It's just how life is. Often when we've been hurt, we hold a grudge against the person who triggered our hurt. A grudge is when we hold on to a bit of anger and bitterness towards the person because of what they did. When we hold a grudge, we tend to resent the person that we think treated us unfairly. We usually decide we dislike that person, even if we were friends before they hurt us. We might decide we want revenge for what the person did. And we tend to have negative emotions triggered every time we think of the person we hold the grudge against. A grudge is a way to make sure we continue to have negative emotions associated with the person that we think treated us unfairly. So what could we do when we feel hurt? Well, hurt is a very painful thing to experience. It's called hurt for a good reason. So if we don't do anything about it, it can sometimes end up leaving us feeling extremely sad and sometimes a bit rubbish about ourselves. When we feel hurt, it's a good idea to acknowledge what happened. Don't spend time or energy refusing to accept what happened. Unfair and unpleasant things happen all the time. We have no control over some of the things that hurt us, so we have to accept these things are going to happen now and then. This is not to say we shouldn't do anything about what happened, but if we accept these things as part of life, we use less emotional energy being cross about the unfairness and more in attempting to sort out our emotions so we can feel positive about the situation and life again. At the same time, it's also important to acknowledge our emotional hurt. Feelings are feelings, and we should never pretend we are not feeling what we are. If we ignore our feelings, they will turn up somewhere else in our lives when we don't expect them, and we are likely to have less control over them, such as having an angry outburst, being irritable, snapping at someone, and so on. So when you're feeling hurt, get on and notice that you're feeling it so that you can do something about it. So once we've accepted what happened and how we feel about the situation, what could we do next? Well, the first thing to ask ourselves is, can we talk to the person or people who triggered our hurt? The aim of this talk is to come away feeling better about the situation and about the person who triggered our hurt. It's best not to do this immediately after whatever it was that triggered our hurt. It's better to take some time out to think about the situation and how best to address it. When you can, start by telling the person how you felt when they did or said whatever they did. Often that is all we need to do, as they will apologise and we will feel better. Often the person who hurt us really didn't realise the effect they had on us. When you explain how you feel, remember to use I messages. For example, I feel X when people do Y. So I feel frustrated when people ignore what I say. I messages are good because they don't blame other people for making you feel a particular way. This usually prevents the other person from feeling attacked in any way. Sometimes though, we have to discuss the situation a little more to unpick it and help everyone understand the reasons for why things happened and the feelings involved. This is often an uncomfortable and awkward thing to do, but again, the aim is for you to feel better without the other person going away upset. It should not be about getting back at the person who triggered your hurt. It should be about finding a way forward where you feel better and the other person also feels okay about the situation. For understanding to happen well, both people need to listen to each other properly and not jump to conclusions. Both people will need to agree to try hard to understand the other person's side of the story. It's also good to try empathising with the person who triggered your hurt. Is there a reason why they behaved like they did that you might not be aware of? That could also be something you try hard to find out in any conversations you have with the person who triggered your hurt. If we can't have a conversation with the person or the people that triggered our hurt, and we can't change the situation, then we need to work on the feelings that we are experiencing. And we can do that by looking at any grudge that we might be holding on to. A grudge causes us more bother and upset than the person we are holding the grudge against. You suffer most from any grudge you hold, as the person you hold it against is rarely aware of your difficulties, rarely aware of the pain you are feeling, or even the fact that you're holding a grudge. Holding a grudge can also mean the hurt can grow. A grudge is really not a great thing to carry around. Dropping the grudge against the person who hurt you does not mean that you think that their behaviour was okay. If someone lied to you, treated you unkindly, insulted you, or left you out, for example, those behaviours can still be challenged. Dropping a grudge does not mean you've decided the person's behaviour was acceptable. It means you're not letting what they did affect your feelings in a negative way anymore. We know when a grudge is gone when thinking about the person no longer triggers unenjoyable emotions, and we are happy to remember good things about that person. Another thing that can help get rid of a grudge is to change how you think about the person who triggered your hurt. This person probably triggered your hurt because of the way they behaved. You might have thought their behaviour was bad, but this doesn't mean they're a bad person. They behaved badly, and we're all capable of doing that for lots of different reasons. It can help us release the grudge if we learn to accept everyone behaves badly at times, including ourselves. If we can learn to accept we all mess up and would all hope to be forgiven for whatever we did, that rule should apply to us as well as to everyone else. When we feel hurt and we're holding a grudge, we usually have a strong need for the person who hurt us to understand our side of the story. Sadly, this does not always happen, and accepting this can also help us to move on. It can help to talk to someone else about what happened and have them listen with a sympathetic ear, but ultimately it is down to us to understand the times when our side of the story will not be heard or cannot be heard, and learn to let it go. This will ultimately make us feel better. When we hold a grudge, we might sometimes want revenge against the person who triggered our hurt. Revenge is when we hurt or harm a person deliberately to get them back for what they did to us, so that they also suffer. Revenge most often makes situations worse, and often we regret any revenge that we took. Time spent even thinking about what we could do for revenge keeps us locked in a state of negative thinking and unenjoyable emotions. Forgiveness is an important part of no longer holding a grudge. Forgiveness is about you releasing yourself from the hurt. It's not for the benefit of the person who hurt you. When we forgive, we feel calmer. It does not mean that you have to forget what happened. It means that when you think about the situation or the person that triggered your hurt, it no longer triggers negative feelings. Sometimes it's really hard to forgive someone, as the act of forgiving can make you feel unsettled because you're probably thinking you've let someone get away with something that they really should not have got away with. But forgiveness is definitely the way to feel better in the long run. Things that can help us to forgive. Remember, when we forgive, we feel better. Remember, everyone messes up, including ourselves. Remember, forgiveness means making up with someone is far more likely to happen. Remember, whatever someone did, you will forget about it at some point in the future, and it will eventually seem like no big deal. Have a go at not taking what happened so seriously. If you can laugh at it, that will help. If you've been hurt by someone you like or love, try remembering the good things about that person. Forgiving someone does not necessarily have to mean you'll be friends again. Sometimes friendships fizzle out and we move on. It's just how it is. You may never understand why someone did what they did, and accepting that can also help you forgive. Write a letter with all you want or need to say to the person who triggered your hurt. You don't need to send it, but it can help you process your hurt so that you can forgive. Think about your own reaction. Have you been really sensitive? Did someone pick on something they didn't know you were sensitive about? Might you have misunderstood what happened? It's always good to ask those questions too. Warning. If someone's behaviour continues to hurt us, even though we've done everything to try and help them understand that their behaviour is not helpful and is upsetting us, then there's an argument for avoiding that person. If a person is often saying unkind things about us, teasing us, bullying us, deliberately leaving us out and so on, and nothing seems to stop these behaviours, then there comes a point when it's obvious that this person does not deserve our friendship. You can still forgive them, but you don't need to be friends with them or spend time with them, as this will probably cause you continuous emotional pain or hurt. Okay, now to say something a bit different. Some people experience hurt more often and strongly than other people. This is because some people, usually those who've had a hard start in life, expect the world to hurt them. So they're quick to see times when they've been treated unfairly and quick to be upset by them. If we are always expecting, looking for, and seeing times when we could be hurt, we can become really guarded, sensitive, and defensive, and quickly moan about any time when we see unfairness. This can give us quite a negative view of life and make us unhappy and a bit angry with the world. It can also make us suspicious, make us hold grudges for a long time, and lead us to believe that others are enjoying our upset. It can also mean we behave in ways that make situations, and in fact our lives, worse, such as lashing out or rarely trusting anyone. Other people are more likely to notice when people are being kind and helpful, and this is what they tend to expect from others. These people are less likely to feel hurt so often. If we don't expect to be hurt a lot, we're less likely to be. We are hurt less if we understand and accept that the world is unfair and a bit messy. If we understand everyone, including ourselves, messes up now and then, and we all deserve forgiveness and a second chance. And if we understand that nobody is perfect, it's helpful to remember everyone has good, helpful and kind bits, as well as not so good bits. And if we spend time enjoying and thinking about the good bits, and we learn to accept and forgive the bad bits, as long as they're not really harming us, this makes life easier. So what have we learnt? Well, we've learnt that hurt is emotional pain caused by the words or actions of others that we consider to be unfair. We've learnt that we can often feel better about situations where we've been hurt by simply having a conversation with the person who triggered our hurt. We've learnt that in those situations where we've been hurt that we can't do much about, it's best to work on our own well-being, and the best way of doing that is to learn to forgive. And we've also learnt that to feel less hurt, it helps to understand and accept that the world will never be completely fair.